Moving on, we have a keynote presentation on novel XR hardware requirements, providing metaverse-level consumer and enterprise experiences by Dr. Bernard KRESS, Director of XR Hardware at Google, and Dr. Maria Pace, who was a technology leader in mixed reality at Microsoft. Firstly, Dr. Pace is passionate about developing the next computing platform to empower every user to achieve more in their professional and private lives. At Microsoft, Maria works with the team to innovate and address technical challenges to push barriers and unlock solutions for the next generation. On the other hand, a few words about Dr. Bernard KRESS. Dr. KRESS has been involved in optics and photonics for the last 25 years as an author, instructor, associate professor, engineer, and hardware development manager in academia, startups, and large corporations with a focus on micro-optics, diffractive, and holographic optics. He successively worked on product developments in the fields of optical computing, optical telecom, optical data storage, optical anti-counterfeiting, industrial optical sensors, and more recently in augmented and mixed reality systems. Since 2010, he held engineering management positions at Google X, Google Glass, and Microsoft HoloLens 1 and 2. He currently is the director of XR Hardware and the president-elect of the International Society for Optics and Photonics, the SPIE. Bernard chairs various SPIE conferences, including SPIE AR, VR, and MR conferences held each year at the Moscow Center in SF. Over to you, dear doctors. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. My name is Maria Pace. I am technology leader at Microsoft, and I'm here with Bernard KRESS.
Bernard KRESS. I'm the director of XR Hardware at Google. I'm also the 2022 president-elect of the International Society for Optics and Photonics.
Thank you. We are very excited and honored to be here and talk about the consumer headset hardware metaverse experiences and use in next generation retail experiences. Today, mixed reality is considered to be the third wave of computing. We began a few years ago with personal computers, and then we had the smartphones. And today, we are in the intelligent edge with all the IoT and mixed reality hardware with mixed reality intelligent cloud, which includes goggles, video see-through, smart glasses, etc. So VR and AR are now considered mainstreams, which means that we have passed the early adoption phase, and this translates into big numbers today. If you look at this table, the augmented and virtual reality in 2021 represented about $2 billion, which was a small number compared to the wearables and the smart home, but the prediction for 2025 is $20 billion. This represents about 68% increase in the compound annual growth rate. This is huge and also presents really good opportunities in this space. So let's take a look at MR use cases in industry. And I want to zoom here for a minute and talk about the industry part. And this is because historically, we have examples of various companies, including Google with Google Glass, Microsoft with HoloLens, and even Magic Leap, that were working on hardware. And even in the early days of Microsoft HoloLens V1, Bernard was leading here and realized that there was a question: should we target enterprise? Should we target consumer? And the decision was to go for both. It was interesting that there was no echo coming back from the consumer side. So the answer was clear when the team began developing HoloLens 2. It was 100% targeting enterprise for industry. Similarly with Magic Leap 1, Magic Leap 2, etc. Now, today is a little bit different, as we are seeing there is more appetite on the consumer side. By 2030, mixed reality has the potential to deliver 1.5 trillion boost to the global economy. And this is done in various ways. enhanced training, risk reduction, but also faster product design and delivery. And here you can see some of the numbers in the billions of dollars. Now you can see that the metaverse is nowhere in these numbers today. How is mixed reality transforming enterprise? Here we have a few examples, but there are many, many other examples. Now, remote assistance is one of the major ones with high impact, of course, training and design and prototyping as well. AR and MR creates an immersive experience where the user is with e-commerce advancing in 7 league steps. Traditional retail stores also hear the call to embrace digital disruption and move their business to online space or establish an omnichannel commerce platform in an attempt to reach customers via all possible means. Nowadays, there is hardly a retail business without an online shopping application, as keeping solely to offline sales is a recipe for failure and really bankruptcy. New brands and marketplaces start their business online only, while some existing stores even close their offline operations due to low profits against high cost. Brick-and-mortar retail stores are now facing multiple challenges. Customer numbers are dropping off in favor of online shopping platforms, and the so-called showrooming, a very discouraging trend where customers are visiting offline stores to try and test their products, to get expert advice only, and make the purchases online. In order to attract customers to their own offline stores, retailers are looking for ways to apply technology, creating unique shopping experiences transported to virtual environment. It is especially effective in interior design, architecture, and furniture stores, as virtual reality allows the customer to literally step into their new homes.
Thank you, Maria. So we talked about enterprise experiences for virtual reality, mixed reality, and augmented reality. We're going to focus now more on consumer level experiences for mixed reality, and especially experiences that are related to smart glasses. Not so much AR headsets, but rather smart glasses. So the first question that comes to mind is when a company develops a solution for mixed reality for consumer is an interesting question. And depending on which company you're asking this question, you might actually get use case or hardware. Imagine Apple having developed the iPod without iTunes. It would have never resonated with the consumer. iTunes with the iPod was the perfect combination of use case and hardware. Today, with smart glasses, we're lacking a little bit the use case. A lot of companies are focusing on hardware, but really hardware without a use case for mixed reality is for mixed reality, and especially smart glass type mixed reality, is really doomed. So we think that the first attempt has to be hardware, but it's actually a shot in the dark because the use case is not very well defined, exactly as we did it 10 years ago with Google Glass. As you may remember, Google Glass was targeted to consumer, but didn't resonate with consumer, and eventually resonated a lot with enterprise. Same thing with HoloLens 1, which was targeted both for consumer and enterprise, did not resonate with consumer, but resonated very well with enterprise. Same thing with Magic Leap 1, who was targeted both for consumer and enterprise, and Magic Leap 2 got retargeted only for enterprise. That was exactly the same thing that happened with HoloLens 2 1 year later. HoloLens 2 was retargeted 100% for enterprise. So Let's see what happened. 10 years ago, Google introduced for the first time Google Glass, and that didn't go well with consumers. So one could actually ask this perfectly valid question: what went wrong the first time 10 years ago, and are we now ready for consumer level smart glass experiences? Well, recently we've started to see a resurgence in discussions about the topic. A lot has changed on the technical front, and we're here to talk about hardware also, and society seems to be in a better place also to accept this trend now. Maya talked a lot about the retail experience, but there are many other experiences on the consumer side. With that in mind, can we realistically expect smart glasses to actually take off this time around? Well, let's see what consumers are talking about. And when you want to know what consumers are talking about, you are asking Google. And the Metaverse search term peaks up on the consumer level in an amazing way end of 2021. So of course, you always have to ask also where that technology is located on the Gartner hype cycle. And today, the Metaverse is located at the top of the peak of inflated expectations. The real question is, will the Metaverse ever make its way to the plateau of productivity? And this is a big question today. So 3 months ago, everybody was talking about AR, VR. Actually, that slide is a little bit old. So I would say 5 months ago, everybody was talking about AR, VR, and MR, and NFTs, and many other things, such as social networks. Today, the whole industry is talking about the same things, but in the context of the Metaverse. So end of last year, Facebook planned to hire 10,000 people in Europe to build the Metaverse, and also to spend $10 billion, which they did in 2021, on the Metaverse division. Now, of course, after spending $10 billion on the Metaverse and not really having any revenues associated, that dragged down the profit. And as a consequence, Meta platform stock suffered a historic rout, which was actually the largest loss in dollar value of any other company in the history of the NASDAQ. So it's not a small drop. It's actually the largest drop in the history of the NASDAQ since the NASDAQ exists. However, amid all this fluff and hype, Meta, which is the new name of Facebook, showed an impressive demo of its codec avatars, which are the basis of the sense of presence, which is the main use case for mixed reality today. Other companies such as Apple and Microsoft are investing a lot in creating realistic avatars to provide metaverse-grade applications. These are some examples of what Facebook is doing, some patents from Apple, which shows how inside-in face trackers would be working in headsets, both VR and AR. So they track your face in order to track your emotions, so that realistic avatars can then be built through in the cloud through AI. Apple also bought other companies such as Spaces, which was working on the development of on the generation of realistic avatars from 2D videos. So a new sensor track is really emerging here, body and face tracking to enable realistic avatars. This is an example of cloud compute and AI that can reconstruct realistic avatars from a simple video feed. So, of course, the whole body is scanned and stored on the cloud, and with a simple 2D video feed, that AI algorithm with the body scan can actually recreate a dynamic 3D avatar. New inside-in face tracking sensors enable realistic avatars. This inside-in face tracking focus on eye tracking, forehead, and mouth expressions, which then track your emotions and your face expressions, and can therefore provide realistic avatars. A few years ago, we talked about outside-in sensors with the first Oculus DK1, DK2, where you had to put sensors in your room so that you can track your headset through 6 degrees of freedom in order to enable world-locked holograms. Then came inside-out sensors, where you didn't have to attach sensors in your room anymore. All the sensors were on your headset. And one example was HoloLens 1, Magic Leap 1, HoloLens 2, Magic Leap 2, and the commercial versions of the Oculus, such as CV1, and then the next Quest versions. But here we're talking about inside-in sensors. These are sensors that are on the headset, which can be a VR, AR, MR, or smart glass, and they scan your own emotions, therefore called inside-in sensors. Microsoft last year in March unveiled Microsoft Mesh, which is a platform over which Metaverse type applications can be developed. These Metaverse type applications can be very well adapted to retail, but the foremost application is really the sense of presence, the sense of having the presence of a human being in front of you, sitting in the chair in front of you, having his or her arms resting on the table in front of you without having this person physically there. One of the challenges is to enable this sense of virtual presence without destroying the sense of real presence, because in a realistic metaverse application or retail application, for that matter, it is very likely that it would require the presence, the real presence of human beings, and therefore have this sense of presence of a real person on top of the sense of presence of a virtual person. Now, usually when you have a headset like HoloLens or Magic Leap 1, the presence of the sense of presence of a real human being is deteriorated because you have no access anymore to the eye contact. However, the sense of virtual presence is augmented. The real challenge is to provide a sense of virtual presence without destroying the sense of real presence. And there are a lot of technological challenges related to this. But I believe that in the next 2 or 3 years, we will be able to see headsets that allow you to still have this eye contact, which is really the most basic requirement for a real sense of presence, in addition to the sense of virtual presence. Of course, the battle starts to rage already between to control the metaverse between Microsoft and Meta and many other companies. Microsoft mostly triggered to the industrial metaverse, and Facebook, Meta, triggered mostly to the consumer metaverse.
Thank you, Bernard. So Bernard introduced the concept of mesh for the metaverse, but also at Microsoft with Teams offers a platform for mesh as well, where people can do 3D collaboration together. So here is a visual of what we have. On the left-hand side is you, on the right-hand side is the metaverse. And in between, we have a bunch of mixed reality hardware, including virtual reality, augmented reality, and of course, the legacy gateways. These are laptops, phones, etc. Part of the architecture for our smart glasses and other mixed reality devices are the optics, which include the optical combiners, displays, sensing and haptics, and of course, other related hardware as well. As an example of an architecture at Microsoft HoloLens 2, we use an LBS, laser beam scanning based display engine that you can see here based on MEMS mirrors, fast scanning mirror, a slower scanning mirror. But of course, the metaverse has to do with Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard for almost $70 billion cash transaction. It's important that the hardware has also a complementary software. So this opens up a big platform as well. An interesting point to mention is that during the 15-minute investor meeting, the word metaverse was pronounced at least 10 times. This is unbelievable. So also Adobe looks at collaborative metaverse and NFTs for growth. We also have other examples with Nike that also jumps in the metaverse, as well as other examples of more and more retail giants that are united. So here we see a trend where retailers are really joining the tech companies, something that we didn't see until now. Or of course, Disney as well is jumping in. And again, Nike with the trademark virtual goods.
Thank you, Maria. So not everyone is looking at the metaverse as a formidable opportunity. Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, actually looks at the metaverse with a different view and thinks it's kind of dystopian. Same thing for Niantic. Big company in metaverse games also. In 2016 has been haunting Mark Zuckerberg for a long time, because it gives a glimpse on what the metaverse could be if there's no guardrails and limitations put in, maybe even by governments. So building an equitable, diverse, and inclusive metaverse experience is really important. And Grace Wong from Microsoft here talks about a very simple example of having more equitable meetings through Mesh for Teams with mixed reality headsets. Another company that is trying to build a more responsible metaverse is Facebook. I don't know if 50 million will be enough, but it's a good start. Okay, so let's move to the conclusion. So we're mostly interested in hardware, but we have seen that hardware without a specific use case, generic use case for consumer, will not provide the echo intended in the consumer field. So today, one of the questions that we can ask, and is related to the title also of this talk, is, can smart glasses provide metaverse-grade experiences today? Well, metaverse experience is just one part of the continuum of these mixed reality experiences, starting with collaborative apps. We talked about them at the beginning, especially the industrial metaverse or consumer metaverse. Most of the engineers we're working on here at Google or at Microsoft are really focused on human-centered design and putting the human at the center of their hardware, but also at the center of the use case. And eventually, the metaverse experience will be looking a little bit more like this than the grim picture I showed you before, which was from the movie Ready Player One. So this is really what we're aiming at developing as far as the metaverse experience through smart glasses are concerned. And this will happen in the next few years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bernard and Dr. Maria, for the insightful and valuable knowledge imparted with us today.